It's match day 6 in Major League Soccer. We're here with some sportsbook picks, some of our best predictions for the week. Let's get after it. Here with a little modified lineup today. I'm Bob. We are here with Dion, my regular co-host, and Jeremy Peterman. Jeremy, let us know a little bit about yourself and where we can find your work, buddy.
I'm one of the reporters that covers the Portland Timbers. My outlet is Cascadia FC. You can find us on Substack at cascadiafc.substack.com. And you can find me on Blue Sky at jeremypeterman.bsky.social and on Twitter, if you're still on there, at SportsGuyJeremy.
Thank you everyone for peeking in. Jay Blaze 23, let's go. Oh yeah, we are ready. We got some great picks here. It's a tricky week. I was actually a little surprised to hear people struggling to make picks. I feel like I had too many. Not sure if that means I'm dialed in or dialed out, but we have been doing a fantastic job. Let's first recap last week. Had a pretty nice week. There are our official plays for those of you watching on YouTube or on Spotify now with video. Overall, we went 9-8 on 17 wagers last week for plus 2.74 units, exactly where we want to be at this point in the season. That brings us to 47-41 on 88 wagers so far in 2025, plus 13.81 units. This show is in the plus. We have some really great things ahead for you, so let's get right into it. First match, 2:30 on Saturday, New England Revolution host Red Bull New York. New England Revolution winless and goalless, their only goal coming from an own goal so far this season. Red Bull 2 wins, 2 draws, and 1 loss. Taking a look at the betting odds here, the Revolution are plus 185 to win, Red Bull plus 145, and the draw is at plus 220. Over under 2.5 goals, plus 106 to the over, minus 120 to the under. So you can tell just from looking at this, Vegas is expecting unders to hit in this match. Not a lot of goals between the two teams this year. Red Bull, of course, looking really good, just not prolific in finding the back of the net just yet. Gentlemen, does anyone have a lean on this match? I have the only official play.
My lean is just a simple, Red Bulls to pick up a point, or I can't remember what that's classified as, but draw/win double chance. Simply because I don't have any faith in the New England Revolution, because if you can't score goals, you can't win games of soccer. I do like what I've seen from their new center back pairing, but I haven't seen enough from them going forward to give me any kind of confidence, specifically from their new left winger, Ignatius Ganago. So I feel like the double chance draw win is pretty safe for Red Bull, even though they don't have a particularly great record when going to Gillette Stadium. But the Revolution are very bad. So I'm very, very comfortable with double chance for the Red Bulls.
Now, I had to find a little different way to play the double chance because I couldn't just play it at minus 195, whatever the heck it was at the time. So I had to find a dance partner, and Dion knows kind of where this is going because we've kind of been playing the same type of bets. Red Bull double chance and under 3.5 goals at minus 121. Minus 120 is about as long odds as I'll go for this show. And here when we get Red Bull double chance, under 3.5, Red Bull hasn't been prolific in scoring, and even in the games that they've dominated, 2-0, 2-1, it's going to be one of those score lines. So I think that the best way to kind of bring the odds back up, but also mitigate some risk, Red Bull have been awful up in Gillette Stadium. Although, is it still called? Yeah, Gillette Stadium. I can't imagine any other result. I don't think New England Revolution is doing anything here, but I need to protect against the 0-0, 1-1 draw. That's where I came up with this number. Dion, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think if I would go with anything on this one, I stayed away from it because of Red Bull's at Gillette Stadium, but I really like your pick here, with the under 3.5. But yeah, Red Bull to, the double chance, that's what I would go with if I did play this match for sure, because I have no faith in the Revs. I mean, their only goal is an own goal by another team, and there's no faith in their scoring. I was high on Capana going up there, and I liked what he I liked what he brought for Miami, what he played there off and on, but I thought that this was his chance to shine, and he has not shown yet.
Adam saying New England under 1.5 could be combined with the Red Bull double chance. Love seeing that too. Red Bull under 1.5 is minus 225 though. So again, it was really, really hard to find something that I liked that was both mitigating risk of the draw and not being an astronomical number. But New England absolutely deserves that astronomical number, plus 185 at home. Moving ahead now, we got two Canadian teams, Toronto FC hosting the Vancouver Whitecaps. This game is also at 2:30 at BMO Field, so there's two early games this week. We know which one I'll be watching as a Red Bull fan. Not a whole lot here for me, but we do have three official plays, me, Alex, and Dion, all going together here. Looking at the odds, Toronto FC, heavy home underdog, plus 280. Vancouver Whitecaps, plus 140, and the draw sits at plus 230. Dion, me, you, and Alex all had the same play, but let's throw over to Jeremy first and hear what he has to say.
I think this game is really interesting for Vancouver in particular because they have a midweek game coming up against Pumas in CCL. And I think they're going to ride the momentum of this hot start and being able to get past Monterrey in the past round. And I think they're going to focus more of their energy on that game, knowing how wide open the West is this year and knowing how many more chances they're going to have to pick up points specifically against conference rivals. So early East Coast trip is, I think, in my opinion, a good spot for them to rotate a little bit or at least put some of their better players on a minutes counter, considering they're also dealing with injuries. So I'm not incredibly confident in Toronto either. I think DeAndre Kerr's been their lone bright spot this season. So I think he will score. I think the safest play on this game is both teams to score. But as to who wins, who gets the result, I don't think the result is as important to Vancouver as this to Toronto, especially given that it's another Canadian team and they're going to want to claim at least some part of a scalp with the way their season is going. But the question is, I don't think they can do it. So I think both teams to score is really, really, really safe.
Yeah, here on the show, we have three plays on Whitecaps plus 135. I just think that this one is inevitable. I do understand the squad rotation, but usually I take that more into account for games after a midweek match more than before it. I think that Vancouver Whitecaps could put out their B squad and leave with a result. I have no faith in Toronto, what they're doing. I saw them with Insigne at Red Bull Arena right in front of me, and there's just nothing there. There's nothing there. Dion?
Yeah, I mean, you hit it right on the head there, Bob. Vancouver, I think, could put in their second lineup and win this. Toronto, I have to agree with Adam. Toronto's in shambles. I mean, even with Bernadeschi and Insigne did start last week, they're not good. And and also even on the road here, Whitecaps are averaging 2.5 goals on the road, only allowing 0.5, where Toronto at home, yes, they've only played the one game. They allowed 2 goals. I think that it's an easy one for Vancouver, so I had to go with Vancouver in this one.
Look at the Vancouver over 1.5 at plus 128. That is a really nice plus number 2. You'd have to assume that if they scored 2, they would also have won this game. So I love attacking it like that too. Toronto's given up 2 goals in every game they've played. In fact, they're allowing 2.4 goals per match. That is worst in Major League Soccer. So if you're interested, for me, you could also find a nice price on Brian White, anytime goal scorer, plus 155 for someone who should hit the back of the net. And I don't care if he plays a half. He is, so hot right now that I even like that. Moving on now, Colorado. The Rapids are hosting Charlotte. Colorado 2 wins, 2 draws, and 1 loss. Charlotte 3 wins, 1 win, and 1 loss. This is the 4:30 game, so still primetime, still a game everyone's going to be able to watch out there. Colorado Rapids plus 130, Charlotte plus 195, and the draw is at plus 230. I do not have a play here, but I have to say I'm looking at these odds, and I kind of wish I did because I like Rapids at plus 130. I like Charlotte at plus 195, and I like the draw at plus 230. It doesn't matter what side you see. I think that the odds are going to be in your favor however you play this. Dion, you have the official play. How are you playing this?
Yeah, so I'm playing this one. I'm going with a safe bet because Colorado is altitude. Charlotte, though, looked good. I went with Charlotte, draw no bet on this one for plus 115 is what it was at when I looked at it. I just think Charlotte coming off of that victory where they scored, 4 goals last weekend, great game. Colorado, kind of up and down, kind of inconsistent, kind of not. I don't know really where to put them, but I think that is a safe bet in this one. And so I went Charlotte, draw no bet.
And Charlotte just played San Jose, which I believe is also like at altitude. I think that's a very, very difficult place to play. And you've seen them get results, everywhere. Actually, they were there at home in that match. So scratch everything I just said. Two teams don't play each other very much. You have a Western Conference team, Eastern Conference team. So, yeah, again, I think that's a reason for a lot of the value. If you really think a team's going to win and both teams are going to score or something like that, the team totals are absolutely worth looking at. Colorado over under 1.5, plus 104 to the over, minus 132 to the under. So we're favoring Colorado to score exactly once. Charlotte over under 1.5, plus 140 to the over. And Charlotte has hit that in 4 of 5 matches. I'm kind of almost tempted to make like a pro Charlotte 1.5 play at plus 140. Jeremy, you seeing the same thing I'm seeing here?
One thing that I am seeing here is Andrew Privet being suspended, which will cause Tim Ream to likely slot in alongside Malanda at center back and clearing the way for Doumbia to start at left back, which I think is actually going to be better for Charlotte defensively and going forward. Now, last week, they played at home. They played San Jose. They thumped them, just ran them off their home field. But Charlotte is a very different team on the road. They're going to try and sit back. They're going to try to absorb Colorado's pressure, which will come. And this is going to be their first game playing at altitude. They've never had a trip to Colorado before. And there aren't a lot of there are quite a few MLS veterans on this team, but I don't think any of them have ever made this trip. It's a very difficult place to play, just physically, and especially for a player like Ashley Westwood, who covers a ton of ground and is instrumental to this team. So I am leaning more towards Colorado plus 130, especially coming off of a very brutal 3-0 loss at home against the Timbers, who are familiar with going to altitude and are familiar with how this team plays and also had their number last year. I think this is a perfect spot for Colorado to put what happened last week behind them against, technically a weaker Charlotte back line, but also against a team that is riding high, but is also a very, very different team on the road.
Trying to look at some players here who would have played at altitude before. Eric Williamson, absolutely. Bill Tuiloma. I kind of forget he's on this Charlotte team. Remember, he was like a rising star in Major League Soccer for quite a long time. Interested to see what happens with the Privet suspension. He's out with a red card. Tim Ream, obviously a natural center back, but the way the Charlotte defense operates is kind of like a 3 center back line, letting that right winger Nathan Byrne, whoever's playing over there, to get upfield. So you're right that it does definitely change the shape of the defense. Although I'm going to push back a little, saying we're not really sure yet whether that's in the positive or in the negative. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's fair. But I'm also just more convinced by Colorado feeling angrier and coming out and actually converting some of the half chances that they missed in the first 10 minutes against Portland last week. So I'm still leaning more towards Colorado, and that's also just due to Charlotte's big disparity between their home and away form, especially as of late since Dean Smith took over.
One official play, Dion with Charlotte on the draw, no bet. Anything to add?
No, I don't think so.
Then let's move right on. This is an interesting one. Inter Miami, 3 wins, 1 draw, no loss against Philadelphia Union. 4 wins, 1 loss. This is Saturday, 7:30. Somehow this was not flexed to a primetime game like everyone else had there. This one will take place at Chase Stadium just outside of Miami. Inter Miami minus 175 heavy favorites with the Union at plus 400. The draw at plus 330. Over under 3.5 goals, plus 114 to the over, minus 138 to the under. And we have some team totals there. Philly over under 1.5, plus 186 for the over. So a lot of heavy favorites on Miami. It looks like the sportsbook really thinks Miami's going to put a whole lot in the back of the net. Philly a whole lot less. Dion, I know you have no official play, but talk us through what you're thinking here.
Yeah, so This one was hard for me because Philadelphia are 2-0 on the road. Can't remember exactly who they played, but Miami's just Messi should be back for this match. I would believe so. So I don't know. Philadelphia did not look good 2 weeks ago, but then last week they looked pretty good against St. Louis, a good defensive St. Louis side. I couldn't pick one way or the other. Nothing sounded good to me. But something like both teams to score, or I would even say like an over 2.5 goals would work. But I don't know what that, what the number is for that. But I
Minus
would say
200 somewhere.
Yeah. So
unbettable.
Yeah, exactly. So I had to stay away from this one. I think that Inter Miami though will win there at home in this one.
Jeremy.
This is just something my gut has been telling me since I looked at this game. And I remember last year when Bradley Carnell was still the head coach of St. Louis, and he took a much worse squad down to Miami and pulled a 3-3 draw out in a massive road point for St. Louis. And St. Louis was ahead 3-2 before a late equalizer from Jordi Alba hit the back of the net. And the one thing I've seen from this Philadelphia Union team this year, more than the goal scoring, is just a consistent team identity to keep making teams uncomfortable. And even though this is a home game for Miami, they have had a week off, and it is going to be a very, very tough test for them to keep dealing with a Philadelphia Union team that is constantly going to be pressuring them. And I think that if the Union can force Miami to make some mistakes at the back, which they're not immune to. They weren't immune to last year, even though they have some new defenders coming into the team. I think if Philly can pressure them into making some mistakes and stay defensively solid enough and try and limit Miami's chances to around the box instead of inside the box, because Messi's still not playing. I'm pretty sure he's not going to play in this one. But when I see plus 400, I see a huge opportunity for some value. And I think Philly is better than I certainly gave them credit for at the beginning of the season. And Carnell is a fantastic coach. This is a huge test for Mascherano, particularly for his just pure coaching chops. And also, that mistake is going to come from Miami. It might just be a bad giveaway. It might be another red card. Something bad is going to happen to this team in this game. And whether or not they're going to be able to recover from it, or if they are in a position to even make the mistake in the first place and be properly able to recover from it. So I'm very much leaning towards Philadelphia plus 400. I know it's very controversial, but every undefeated team has to lose at least at some point. And I feel like this is Miami's. I think Philly just shows up, punches them in the mouth, and doesn't take their foot off the gas until the 90 minutes are done. And also, Miami has CONCACAF midweek. So there could be some minutes restrictions for that because they are playing LAFC. So I just feel like this is a Philadelphia play, and I think they walk away 2-1 winners.
Now, I couldn't disagree more, but comments, Lucas says Miami ain't losing. I kind of agree with that, and I was struggling on finding a bet to place on this because I needed to pull up the graphics, so I needed to wager something on it. And I was thinking about last year when Red Bull played against Miami. Red Bull, of course, high press, very similar to what Philadelphia is doing now. And although the press is a little more mature this year, Carnell's still very much like the brunt force, run after the guy closest to you kind of press. Well, Red Bull, I believe, was at home, won 4-0 in that match because they just overwhelmed Miami. In the next match, they had to play catch up. And once Miami scored first, everything was open up. I think it was 6-2 final. I think Miami's still scoring from that match. I see very, very different possibilities. I favor Miami, and I don't care if Messi's playing. I don't care if Suarez is playing. They have enough guys because everyone is playing on a freebie there now. Everyone wants to just get noticed. So you got players like Segovia, who's been fantastic. Yannick Bright has been really good. Redondo's playing for less than he's worth just because they want to get the exposure of people watching them each and every week because they know the paycheck's going, up for them to get out of town. I favor Miami in this matchup, but I don't want to bet on them because if Philly can get a goal or two early, which, yeah, you can score on Miami. That's not an issue. If they can close the door, we might be in for a little rough ride. So my official play here, both teams to score and no draw at -101. I'm divorcing myself from the outcome, although I think it's Miami. I would rather have like both teams score in Miami plus the draw, but I'll take either winner here. Both teams score no draw, -101. I think you made a lot of great, smart points, Jeremy. I just can't. We've seen too much Miami to know. Remember last year when Messi got hurt and it's like, let's fade Miami from here on out? It didn't work, and I don't think it's going to work here yet. Nashville decent, but Philly lost to Nashville at home. I don't think Miami is losing at home. Also, Miami beat Atlanta in their home. Well, that was the only time Miami beat Atlanta. Atlanta's kind of had their number over the past few seasons. But yeah, absolutely good stuff. Great points there. We got to see how it plays out. And luckily, there's actually not a lot of 7:30 games this week. So you could throw this one on the TV and have a great afternoon. Heading now to the 8:30 matches. Chicago, 3 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss. Hosts CF Montreal, the team everyone wants to see if they are, looking to rack up those early home wins. Chicago Fire, -175. That's just about as long odds as we've seen. CF Montreal, +440. The draw is at +300. I've said it a million times. When you see +440 in MLS, like you're starting to see value, whether you think they're going to win or not. And Dion, I think you have an official play in this one. Oh no, Alex has an official play. Couldn't be here tonight. So Dion, we're going to go to you and you're going to talk us through it.
Oh, great. Chicago Fire and Montreal. Montreal is just, they're in more shambles than Toronto, in my opinion. And then they fired their coach, not even all the way through their 8-match opening for 8-match away games to open the season. My goodness, I'm all over the place with that. I just don't see Montreal winning here. I think that it's going to be a while before Montreal wins. So I didn't pick anything in this one, but I think that, the Chicago -175, I don't think I would go with that. I would have to add something to it like Alex. But Chicago has to win this one. It will be their first win this season at home at Soldier Field. But yeah, I think it would be a huge letdown for Chicago if they lost this game.
And let this be a huge reminder to everyone watching at home. If you're on YouTube and you drop a comment, we could pull it right up online. And unfortunately, Jeremy's in the unlucky seat there where he gets his face covered every time someone makes a comment. Lucas saying Chicago money line and over 1.5. Guess what? That is Alex's official play. Chicago and over 1.5 goals, -120. You're getting a nice price, and you're not, the dance partner of a total over 1.5 is not a whole lot. However, Chicago, that means Chicago's going to have to score too. So you could also pair the over 1.5 at -188 with something if you want to dabble with that. But the official play, Chicago and over 1.5 -120. Reading Lucas's mind, I promise these graphics were made a lot earlier today. In fact, that line may have already walked. Let's now look at one interesting matchup, and I think a few of us had it play. Nope, only me. No. Yeah, we have 3 team plays on this. FC Dallas hosting Sporting KC. Dallas 2 wins, 1 draw, 2 losses. SKC, they have 1 draw and 4 losses. Unless you count CONCACAF, then they have 1 draw and 6 losses. This is an 8:30 game at Toyota Stadium, and you gotta like what Dallas has put together. We're kind of rooting for Dallas. Like, turn it around. Go score some goals. Make a definitive statement win. And they are at -125 this week. Sporting KC +300, and the draw is at +2. I believe that's 280. My eyes are getting to me this time of night. Over under 2.5 goals. -146 to the over. +120 to the under. Great to see FC Dallas with an over score line here. And you guys kind of know what the official play is going to be, but I'm going to throw over to Jeremy and just pick his brain on this one.
This match is interesting to me because I think SKC is pretty much a lost cause at this point too. I think they're the Toronto/Montreal of the West, except that they're closer to Montreal because they have a coach who is very firmly on the hot seat. I think this is a pretty easy one for me. It's 2 legs. Give me Dallas money line. Give me Petar Musa anytime goal scorer. Pretty simple.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I think that Dallas made some improvements, but I don't think that they are, ready for prime time right now. But, I talked about this as one of my best bets a little earlier on a guest spot that I had this week. Sporting KC's allowed 10. That's more than any other team in the West. And I think that kind of tells a little bit of the story. Dallas is 0 for 2 at home after losing to the Fire and Vancouver. So they definitely want to turn, Toyota back into a place where they can go, and other teams are going to be a little bit afraid. We watched Luciano Acosta get started last week with his goal. When I look at the XG, and I'm kind of a numbers nerd, I know Lucas calling both of these a fraud, saying no thanks, but SKC, I could hear that from. Their expected goal differential is minus 4.2. Their actual goal differential minus 5. It's right about where it should be. When we look at Dallas, their expected goal differential is plus 1.8. Their actual goal differential is minus 1. That's a 3-goal swing over just 5 weeks of the season. I love Petar Musa. Sporting KC is awful at defending set pieces. So I think Musa, anytime goal scorer, is going to play. They're also not great against skillful players. Luciano Acosta at the number 10 position, finally just kicking it around, playing some good soccer. I like where that bet is too. Our official plays, Dallas minus 120, Alex Dallas minus 120, and Dion, Dallas in under 3.5 at plus 166. Talk to me about how you came up with that number.
So just looking at it, I am also a statistics guy, and I like the numbers like you there, and I like the Musa bet there, Jeremy. So I do have to agree with you on that one. But Dallas, yes, both games at home are losses. They have allowed 4 goals in those first 2 and only scored 1. And then on the flip side, Sporting Kansas City have only scored 1 on the road and have allowed 3. So I feel like that's why I went with the 3.5, under 3.5. Also, I didn't want to pick the same. I think you both had your picks already in. I wanted to be a little bit different and wanted to try to get a plus in this one. But that's how I came up with under 3.5. Neither team, like Dallas isn't scoring at home. Sporting isn't scoring on the road. So I went with that in this play.
Love that. I think there's a really smart way to attack the pick. I would be a little worried about Dallas's offense finally opening up, but I don't think that this is going to be a team that's going to try to beat you 4-1 week in and week out. They're going to be happy with those little 2-1, 2-0, 1-0 wins. And if you get one of those in this one, you get plus 166, a nice way to attack to get a little bit of a higher number there. Moving now to LA Galaxy, who are winless. 2 draws, 3 losses. In Orlando, 2 wins, 1 draw, 2 losses. A lot of weird stuff going on between these two teams here. I knew immediately I wanted to have a play, and I knew immediately what it was going to be, and that would be what? Goals, right? LA Galaxy plus 125, Orlando City plus 190 as the visitor, in the draws at plus 260. Under 2.5 goals, plus 134. Over, minus 162. This was probably closer to a 3 total. LA Galaxy over 1.5 minus 113. In Orlando over 1.5 plus 124. I'm going to now go back over and see who has an official play. Oh, it's only me. Dion, take it away.
Yeah, so in this one, did you go through the numbers there? I don't know. I'm sorry.
I did, yes.
One, you did, okay. I was looking at the stats and stuff to see where I would go with this one. I didn't make an official bet in this one or anything because it's so up in the air, and Orlando are very inconsistent to me. I mean, we saw last week they put up 4 goals, but in weeks prior, like just too inconsistent for me. But at the same time, I would lean toward them because the Galaxy haven't scored at home yet. They have allowed 5 goals in their 2 losses at home. And it was just hard for me to try to make a pick in this because, again, Orlando, they're just inconsistent to me. I don't know where else to go with that. I don't know what else to say about it. But, yeah, they're inconsistent. It just depends on what team shows up there in LA for them.
Love the comments there. Guys know already what I'm getting after. Goals. Lucas and Adam both here talking, and that's exactly my play. Both teams to score over 2.5 goals at minus 112. The minus 112 really isn't that great of a number, but Galaxy, They're seeing 14 goals total, 4 scored, 10 against. Both teams score in 3 of their 5 matches this season. Meanwhile, Orlando is seeing 24 total goals, 13 scored, 11 against. Both teams to score in all 5 of their matches. They're 2 unfamiliar teams. I don't think this is going to be like one of those cagey ones. It has the opportunity to, but both teams score over 2.5. I mean, if both teams score, you need 1 extra goal. Okay, I'm divorcing myself from the outcome because I think Orlando has some fantastic players. Pasalic, one of the best players. I saw him right winger cut in, hit the ball off his left foot. I saw it at Red Bull Arena when I was there, and we saw that last week, goal of the week. All these teams, every match, over 2 goals, over 2 goals, over 2 goals. I like any way you can attack this. I choose the path of least resistance because I think, Orlando, prolific offense, one of the worst defenses I've seen a team put out. And I think that a lot of that is something that's going to be remedied later this season. So I want to attack it while I can. Of course, Cartagena on that double pivot with Cesar Araujo went down early this season. He's going to miss the year. They picked up Edward Atuesta, who is not quite as good as Cartagena, but he's competent. And I think that once he puts that chemistry together, this whole defense, this whole spine of the team is going to get a little better. But until I see it, I'm going to be picking on them each and every week. Let's move on now and talk about kind of the opposite, the most opposite game I could think of. St. Louis City, 2 wins, 2 draws, and 1 loss. Austin, 3 wins, 2 losses. This one is Sunday at 2:15. There are 2 Sunday games this week. St. Louis City plus 115 to win. Austin plus 220. And the draw is at plus 230. Over under 2.5 goals. Minus 116 to the over, minus 106 to the under. So just like us, Vegas has no idea which way this one is going to go. Lower scoring, possibly cagey game. St. Louis City allowed their first goal of the season last week. Dion, that's over to you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. St. Louis, back to the Philadelphia game. I meant to make that comment when we were talking about it. Philadelphia actually made St. Louis not look great on defense, had them all over the place running. So, Jeremy, some of your takes on Philadelphia were good because I think that they could make them go each way against Miami. But that's not the game we're talking about. St. Louis City, their defense is phenomenal. Austin, though, didn't really get started until last week. I'm glad to see Vasquez finally get on the score sheet for Austin. I did not have an official bet in this one because Austin's not scoring. St. Louis isn't allowing teams to score. And it's also the other way around for both teams. They're not scoring goals at the same time, and Austin's not allowing goals. They on the road, they've scored 1 and let 1 in, where St. Louis have scored 1 and haven't let anything in at home. I think that if I went with this one, with something, I would say like the under 2.5 at 116 is maybe what I would go with. No, under is 106. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But I don't think I could pick a winner or anything in this one. It would just be goals related.
I will back up Alex's play on this. Both teams to score no at plus 110. We don't need to pick which team is going to be the one that's shut out. We're going to take both teams to score no. Jeremy, do you feel any way about this match in particular? I like City. I am going to be on them all season long, especially when they're home. They have tougher travel than any other team in Major League Soccer because they are in the Western Conference, traveling out to California each and every week. Here, they stay home. They face off against an Austin team. I think it's going to be lower scoring. I think that usually lower scoring favors the away team, and that's kind of what's pushing me off a little bit here.
I'm still not convinced by Austin, despite what they did last weekend, because I don't think they have the horses to fully control a game. And St. Louis doesn't have the horses, in my opinion, to fully win a game yet, at least under Melberg. Under Hackworth last year, Hartel was consistently great. Toy Shirt was fantastic. Betcher was chipping in with a goal seemingly every week. So I haven't seen Melberg's plan for those guys in attack besides just absorbing a ton of pressure and then just trying to counter into the open space. But one thing Austin does astoundingly well is defend their own box. So I feel like Austin's going to try and pick their spots to try and get in behind. Probably going to come from a man like Osman Bukhari, who hasn't had a great start to the season, and through Brandon Vasquez, basically what they did against San Diego last week. Except once they do take the lead, they are going to shut this game down. And I do think Austin wins this game purely because they are going to find the right moment to score a goal. I don't have enough confidence in them to fully put them on a pick sheet, but I do. My gut is telling me Austin's going to win this through a really weird deflection, just one counterattack, or just enough to where they can just completely collapse into their own box and force St. Louis to beat them with the ball, which St. Louis has not been able to do this year. And the pressure is on St. Louis to do that while they're at home.
And see,
two changes worth noting to this team. You do have Roman Berkey out with that broken finger and Totland out with a hamstring. That kind of changes the shape a little bit. Comment there says Ben Lunt in the goal for St. Louis. He overperformed against Philly. He absolutely stood on his head. It's like, I don't even care who's in net anymore. We know we're going to get incredible goalkeeper performances out of this team. Absolutely love it. I do think he did overperform, but I think he's also probably just a really good backup. We kind of undervalue that position in Major League Soccer. Being a goalie is so tough. Like you get all the blame when something goes wrong, and you don't get a whole lot when something goes right. So I do like that comment there. Says Austin had lots of chances on break in the second half. Somehow didn't score more, but St. Louis won't be that open. Austin, worth noting, Austin has not seen a second half goal score in their last 3 matches, whatever the halftime score that carried through. So they're making some really nice adjustments. That tells me like something with the coaching is going right there on defense.
And see, with this match, I think I would have to disagree with both teams to score in this one. I think that this one's either going to end in a 0-0 draw, or it's going to be a 1-0 victory for one side or the other. Because like Jeremy said, if Austin scores first, they're going to sit back. And I think that the same thing with St. Louis. I think if St. Louis scores, they're going to be even more defensive. So I see this game more likely being a 1-0 or a 0-0 to draw.
Absolutely. That Alex's one official play. Both teams to score no at +110. Moving on now. I believe this is the last game of the week. This is going to be Sunday, 7 o'clock. The 1-2 Portland Timbers host the 0-win, 2-draw, 3-loss Houston Dynamo in a game that no one really wants to talk about. We couldn't have flexed this out of the late night primetime slot here. Portland Timbers +110, Houston Dynamo +220, and the draw is at +250. Over under 2.5 goals, +136 to the over, +112 to the under. Couple different plays. Me and Dion attack this a little differently. Dion, bring me through your thinking first.
Yeah, so in this one, I went with Portland and under 3.5. I think I think it's hard to go play at Providence Park. I always say that. Sometimes I feel like I jinx the Timbers when I say that. But it's hard for someone to go there and win at Providence Park. Both of these teams, neither one of them are scoring a lot of goals. Yes, Portland have 6 on the season, 3 there at home, but Houston have not scored on the road, and then they've only had 3 goals, 4, but have allowed 8. It's just, I think that we will see, I think that Portland wins this. I just haven't seen enough from the way Houston plays, and so I went with that little bit extra. I had to put a little extra on it, and that's why I went with the under 3.5. These teams do not score, and they don't really allow a lot of scoring either on the flip side of that.
I attacked it a little differently. I went exactly what was said in the chat. Portland money line +120. Portland's 1-1-1 at home, but that one loss, 1-1-1 with one loss, that's the Kamal Miller 11th minute red card. I just think that they are going to be competitive. Even when they're bad, they're pretty good at home. We saw David Acosta sparking life. In fact, all 3 number 10s that found themselves on new teams last week, Acosta, DaCosta, Evander, all had great weeks. Houston's bad, but ironically, they're 0. They have 2 0-0 draws on the road. I don't think that happens here against Portland. Portland 9-5-3 at home last year, and remember how bad they started? Jonathan Rodriguez is out, but Anthony, who was supposed to be the winger last year, we thought Cabecita was going to be the center forward, ends up playing left wing. He's stepped up and played fantastically. So I think that There's a lot of good players, a lot of value to be had here. I started at the beginning of this season to try to mitigate my risk and like, am I taking too many away teams? Once in a while, you just need one of those home money lines. Let's go. Portland plus 120 official play. And Dion complicating things a little bit. Portland in under 3.5 goals, plus 186 going for that big unit bomb. Any thoughts, Jeremy?
I have several. First of all, just in terms of Portland, I love Dion's play here. I absolutely do. Not just because of a Portland win, which is something they absolutely have to do before they hit the road for 4 of their next 5 matches. But because of Houston's ability to just collapse and defend their own box on the road. They, after being a very strong possession team under Ben Olsen for the first couple of seasons of his tenure, one of which resulted in a U.S. Open Cup win, they have reverted to basically going on the road and not trying to play the game how they really want to play it. They will cede the possession battle, and in this case, they will cede chances to a Timbers team who, even though they haven't been scoring a lot, they've been injured. They're getting healthier. Santiago Moreno's made his return over the past couple of weeks. His return has sparked the attack and moved them back to a formation that they feel most comfortable playing in. And Houston, meanwhile, they have a DP10 on the way. He's not going to be here for this game. And I'm still not convinced by Ezequiel Ponce and just their ability to find goals and score goals. I think that this is a huge chance for the Timbers to score and win. I don't think Houston scores another goal in this game because even though the Timbers have allowed 8 goals across 5 games so far, 4 of those came against Vancouver, and then they've only allowed goals in 2 other games, one of which was at Nashville. The other one was the home draw against the LA Galaxy. In both other games, they've kept clean sheets, one against Austin, one against Colorado. And I'm expecting the same back line that started in Colorado. That includes goalkeeper James Pantemis, at right back Eric Miller, center back Finn Sermon, center back Kamal Miller, and left back Kimmer Forey, who's been a revelation. I think that this Portland team is finally building a young, competitive, and dangerous back line. And against a Houston team that just cannot seem to find the back of the net and can't even create big chances, this is a huge chance that the Timbers cannot afford to pass up. I think this is a 2-0 or 3-0 victory. Dion has the play of the day right here. I'd hammer that.
Love it. I just need Houston to score a couple goals because I need Abassi's price to go up so I can sell Bossy and So Rare because not looking like a great investment now. I thought, hey, he's going to start a lot of games, and that might not be happening with the new number 10 coming in. Of course, he's kind of a winger, but he's kind of slotted in everywhere. I just need him to get some playing time so I can divest a little bit there. Dion, any final thoughts for the week?
No, I think it's going to be another great weekend. So far through 5 match days, I think we've had some really good games, and I'm expecting for that here in match day 6.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Remember, every Thursday, 8 o'clock, closer to 8:10 once we get everything going with the logistics here. But thank you so much for being there, joining in the comments. We love when you guys comment. We can talk about it live. Jeremy, thank you so much for stepping in very, very last minute. You got a call like 7:15 tonight from me. Hey, we need just someone else. Come on, hop in. So appreciate you there. And Dion doing a little more heavy lifting. Ask him to talk about a lot of games he was not prepared to talk about. So thank you for stepping in there. I appreciate you guys both, and I appreciate everyone at home for watching, checking in on the Designated Pundits.